Malini, would you like to lead class?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam namaskritya naham chaiva narottamam devim sarasvatim vyasam tato jayamudhirayet. Before we start Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Narayana, which is the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Sri Vyasadeva, the author. We are reading from the third canto entitled The Status Quo. We are reading from the third chapter entitled The Lord Passed Them Out of Vrindavan. And we are also reading from text 19. Bhagavan Api Vishva Atma Loka Veda Pata Anuga Kaman Si Shevim Parvatyam Ashakta Sankyam Astita Bhagavan Api Vishvatma Loka Veda Patanugaha Kaman Shishevedva Vatyam Ashakta Sankyam Astita Bhagavan Api Vishvatma Loka Veda Patanugaha Kaman Shishevedva Vatyam Shakta Sankyam Astita Bhagavan Api Vishvatma Loka Veda Patanugaha Kaman Shishevedva Vatyam Ashakta Sankhya Astita
Bhagavan Api Vishvatma
Bhagavan Api Vishvatma Loka Veda Patanugaha
Mansi Sheve Dvarvatyam
Kaman Shishevedva Vatyam
Asakta Sankyam Astita
Ashakta Sankhya Astita
Bhagavan Api Vishvatma
Bhagavan Api Vishvatma Lokaveda Anuga
Mansi Sheve Yam
Mansi Sheve Varvatyam
Sankyam Asita
Asakta Sankyam Hospital.
Someone online would like to chant?
Bhagavan api vishvatma
Bhagavan api Vishvatma
lokaveda patanuga
Lokaveda Patanuga
kaman shishevet varvatyam
Kamansi Sheve
ashakta sankyam astita.
Asakta Sankyam Astita. Bhagavan,
Bhagavan,
personality of Godhead,
personality of Godhead,
Api,
Api,
also
also
Vishva
Vishva-atma,
the super soul of the universe,
the super soul of the universe,
Loka,
Loka,
customary,
Testament,
Veda, Vedic principles,
Vedic principles,
Pata Anuga,
Pata Anuga,
follower of the past,
follower of the path,
Kama,
come on,
the necessities of life,
the necessities of life,
Tisheve,
Sisheve,
enjoyed, Varvatyam,
or Vatyam,
in the city of Dwarka,
in the city of Dwarka,
Ashakta,
Asakta,
without being attached,
without being attached,
Sankyam,
Sankyam,
knowledge in Sankhya philosophy,
knowledge and Sankhya philosophy,
Astitaha,
Asita,
being situated.
being situated.
Translation. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic customs of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. While Maharaj Yudhishthira was emperor of the earth, Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwarka and was known as Dwarkadish. Like other subordinate kings, he was under the regime of Maharaj Yudhishthira. Although Lord Sri Krishna is the supreme emperor of the entire creation, while he was on this earth, he never violated the principle of the Vedic injunction because they are the guide for human life. Regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy, is a real way of enjoyment of the necessities of life. Without such a knowledge, detachment, and custom, the so-called human civilization is no more than an animal society of cat, drink, be merry, and enjoy. The Lord was acting freely as he willed, yet by his practical example, he thought not to lead a life which goes against the principle of detachment and knowledge. Attainment of knowledge and detachment, as very elaborately discussed in Sankhya philosophy, is a real perfection of life. Knowledge means to know that the mission of human form of life is to end all the miseries of material existence, and that in spite of having to fulfill the bodily necessity in a regulated way, one must be detached from such animal life. Fulfilling the demands of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of spiritual is the human mission. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanajala Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Shtapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Kadamaya Tadati Swapadam Tikam Vandeham Shivu Shiyuta Padakamala Shivu Vaishnavam Cham Shiyupam Sagajatam Sahagana Gunatam Itam Tam Sajivam Advaitam Savadutam Parijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Radhana Shri Vishakyam Vicham He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagat Pati Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Sudevi Anamami Avikuyu Vanshakalpata Vubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Yaevacha Patitanam Pavani Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gauta Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama So we are reading from the third canto, third chapter, text 19. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic custom of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, and is as enunciated by Sankhya system of philosophy. So simultaneously means it's connect with previous verse where Uddhava speaks about Yudhishthira Maharaj being enthroned as the emperor of the world, the entire planet. So at the same time, Yudhishthira Maharaj was enthroned really by Krishna himself. So that's an interesting thing. Lord Sri Krishna was the king of Dwarka and is also known as Dwarka Krishna, as opposed, in distinguishing Dwarka Krishna, Dwarkadish, like he said in the purport, from Vrindavan Krishna. Krishna is, he can take any form he wants. So he takes the form of Krishna. And sometimes he takes the form of Krishna and externally is Krishna, and sometimes is taking the form externally as a form of Krishna and is Vasudeva Krishna. And sometimes he doesn't take the form of Krishna. Sometimes he takes the form of half lion and half man, takes the form of a turtle, form of a fish, and he's still Vasudeva Krishna. It's just because Krishna, he has the ability to shape-shifting. So he can also shift even when he keeps the same external form. So when he's in Dwarka, when he's in Vrindavan, the Lord, he performed quite uncommon pastimes. Most of his pastimes are really uncommon. From his birth, he killed demons when he's a newborn, like not a newborn, but like just very, very, like still an infant. He killed demons, carved demons, Putana. And as he grew up, he really performed like unusual pastimes, and lifting Govardhan Hill with the pinky of his left hand, dancing with a copy at night, all those things. And when of course, Krishna never lived Vrindavan. However, when he unmanifest himself while in Vrindavan, he has his manifest pastime and he has his unmanifest pastime in Vrindavan. And all his pastime are all for the pleasure of his devotees. all these devotees in Vrindavan, they enjoy Krishna. They enjoy Krishna to the highest level. And when Krishna manifests himself, it's for their pleasure. And when he doesn't manifest himself, it's also for their pleasure. And of course, for our mind, material mind is a little bit inconceivable. And then, so he never live, and he continues pastime within the form of Krishna as Vasudeva Krishna, Dwarka Krishna, Dwarkadish. And he does that. When he does that, then his pastime become more like common human pastime, a little bit parallel to Lord Ramachandra, Lord Ram. In India, people venerate Lord Ramachandra. Why? Because he's the ideal king, the ideal husband, the ideal son, the ideal father. And he shows how, like in the Bhagavad Gita, I said, what great men do, the mass of people follow. So there is no greater man than Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. So when Krishna he makes sure that he have different incarnations where he show us the way of living a righteous life, and that's very, very much manifested in the pastime of Lord Sri Ramachandra, and also in the pastime of Dwarkadish. Dwarkadish in the morning, he get up early before the sunrise. Yes, he get up early before the sunrise because he's work. He probably take a cold shower. I never read about that. And he does meditation. That's the first thing he does. And his queen are not so happy because they feel separation. They want him to stay with them in bed, and he doesn't do that. So to show us, get up early in the morning, meditate. And of course, he meditate on ourselves. Doesn't mean we need to meditate on ourselves. Some yogis, Maya philosophy gives that as an example. Krishna meditated on himself. Yes, it's a Supreme Personality of Godhead. He cannot meditate on anything bigger than himself, but we can. So getting up early in the morning, meditating on himself, and then he goes about his responsibility as a king. Usually he starts his days living all his palaces, all his 16,108 palaces. That's another uncommon pastime. I think that's in Dwarka, but that's one we cannot imitate, because the Lord make very clear that we need to follow in his footsteps, but we cannot imitate him. So he makes things so clear, like, yeah, even if some Muslim kings, they have harem, but they are not going to buy 16,808, 108 wives. So that's uncommon. However, when he leaves his queen, he has this different form. Again, he expands himself as many times as he wants. And then he come back to one person, and he go to the Sudharma assembly. It's like where he will meet all the people who have different responsibility in Dwarka. And he's going to discuss the day, and he's going to receive people who have maybe grievance or plan or projects. I imagine so many discussions going on there that are all pertaining to Dwarka. And then when he come home, he play with his children. He makes sure that he fulfills the desire of his wives. So he's a perfect king, the perfect husband, perfect ruler of the citizen. And here it says that he does that according to the rule and regulation of society. And yesterday in our Krishna book reading, we were reading how all the Vedic knowledge, the fruit of Vedic knowledge, the fruit of all Vedic knowledge is Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha. So I've been meditating on that since yesterday. Why is it the fruit of Vedic knowledge? And that connects with the Sankhya philosophy. And how it connects with Sankhya philosophy, because Sankhya philosophy often is known as Kapila, explaining to his mother the elements, all the elements, 5 gross elements, 3 elements, the 10 senses, the working senses, the learning, acquiring knowledge senses, and then there is the object of the senses, and then the 3 subtle elements, the mind, intelligence, false ego. So the Sankhya philosophy means we analyze everything. And the Sankhya philosophy leads us to detachment, because when we come to a place of really analyzing everything and going really deep, we come to the super soul, and then we can come to Krishna by analyzing everything. And that gives us knowledge, and knowledge naturally gives us detachment. Vasudeva Bhagavati Bhakti Yoga Prayojita Jnana Varya Jnana. A height to come. So it's said by doing devotional service to Vasudev Krishna, then one immediately acquire causeless knowledge and detachment. Causeless knowledge and detachment. So really, we don't need to go through the process of Sankhya to come to that place. By performing devotional service, automatically we can come to that platform that Srila Prabhupada and the verse is speaking about, detachment and knowledge. And so my question was, how does Sankhya philosophy connect with what's explained here about Krishna following the rule of society, the rule of the Vedic injunction, really? And how does that connect with the 4 fruits of Vedic, of the Vedic tree? So I was really meditating on that, and how by following rule and regulation, that first by understanding that there is an order, that everything is made in an order. If we think of the 5 gross elements, already this knowledge gives so much detachment. Like understanding that this body is made of the 5 gross elements, mainly earth, but also water. And then, also like all 5 elements, that the mind is an element, that the intelligence is an element. Naturally, by learning Sankhya, then what will come next is that, okay, now that I know all the elements that comprise the cosmic manifestation, what's the duty? What's the way to act? What's the way to act? And then the Vedic injunction gives us that. Okay, so, act in a certain way, regulate your life. If you want to have, sexuality, get married. If you want to, eat, there is a certain rule and regulation to eat. Just last night, I was reading from the 6th canto about the food for human being. The food for human being is said to be vegetables and then goats. Goats. That's in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explained that, like evolved human being, like the Brahmins and Kshatriya and even the Vaishya, they wouldn't eat the goat. Like sometimes the Kshatriya, because they hunt, and sometimes they eat the meat, but then they get reaction. And then the Shudra, mainly, the Shudra are going to eat meat because they have a harder time to control their senses. And at the same time, it's a food for human being. And the Veda describe how to eat it in a way that's appropriate, like how to make the sacrifice, how to kill the goat, what mantra to say, to be responsible that I'm killing for my self-preservation. So by following all that, then we come to the fruits. And the fruits of acting are according to the rule and regulation of the Veda, according to the injunction, the Vedic injunction of a proper organization of society. is that the person will develop dharma, religion, develop a sense of being religious just by following those rules. So first there's a knowledge of the analytical surrounding, and then that's come to, okay, what do I do with that? Here there is rule and regulation. By following those rule and regulation, I'm automatically dharmic. Automatically I'm becoming dharmic. So that's religiosity. And then here also in this purport, in a sense, religiosity will bring forth abundance naturally when we follow the rule of going to school or the government, we become abundant. So similarly, when we follow the injunction of the Veda, then naturally economic development, it's a fruit of that. It naturally comes down from that. And we don't have to really be concerned so much about our economic development. It's going to automatically happen. And then from economic development, being nicely situated, comes sense gratification. And when we say sense gratification, we don't mean indulging. We don't mean indulgence in sinful activities. What it means by karma is sense gratification that's dharmic. Karma that's dharmic. And there is a lot of it. And we can see the example of that is the demigods. The demigods, they are good citizens, they do pious activities, they follow the injunction of the Veda throughout their life, and then they are religious and they have economic development, they have a lot of abundance, and they have sense gratification that's way higher than anything we could even imagine on earth. So we can see that in the demigod by being in that tree of the Vedic injunction, they get all that, and they are dharmic, and they get economic development, sense gratification, and then naturally because through knowledge, Sankhya, then one will perform their duty in religiosity. They will perform their duty in receiving economic development, in also sense gratification. They do their duties. And then from that knowledge and detachment, it will lead automatically to moksha, deliverance or liberation. So that's the fruit of the Vedic injunction. That's automatically given to us. And of course, when we come to devotional service, we automatically come to above moksha. Like those are still materials, they are still within the material realm. Those four fruits of the Vedic injunction, they are still in the material realm. And devotional service bring us above moksha. And above moksha is eternal enjoyment in loving exchange with Krishna, which all the personalities that we hear about in the Bhagavatam, the personality in Krishna's pastime in Vrindavan, the personality in Krishna's pastime in Dwarka, all those personalities, that's their level of functioning. That's where they're coming from. So, the Lord is free, and that's very beautiful because we are also free. And the Lord is free, and He willed Himself. Prabhupada say He willed. The Lord was acting freely as He willed, yet by His practical example, He thought not to lead a life which goes against the principle of detachment and knowledge. So through His desire, His will, because He can do whatever He wants. He can indulge in sinful activity, and some people criticize Him for that in His Vrindavan pastime. He can really act as He will, and He chooses to act in a certain way to show us the way of not indulging in sinful activity. By staying in the injunction of the Veda, we are safe. We are safe. At least we won't create creates more negative, sinful activities and karmic reaction. And then Srila Prabhupada goes into like so by knowledge and detachment, again by knowledge and detachment. What's that verse? No, like anyway, it said in a second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Sutta Goswami said like when a student well equipped, with knowledge and detachment, when he perform devotional service according to the Vedas, and then is fulfilling the purpose of human life. So the purpose of human life is not about getting trying to get our sense gratification, trying to get our economic development, or trying to get our religiosity and the liberation through our own efforts, like through our own sense, like I'm going to make a plan and I'm going to force through whatever, not caring for the rule of material energy, not caring for the regulation, not caring if there is any laws of material nature. I'm going to force through and push through my economic development. I'm going to force through and push through my sense gratification, and I'm going to force through and push through my liberation. And Krishna is showing us that won't work. That will just not work. And even more so if we force through and push through in a way that's not according to the injunction of the Veda, and following up in animalistic life. At the end, Srila Prabhupada said, knowledge means that the mission of human form of life is to end the misery of material existence, and that's in spite of having the fulfills the body necessity in a regulated way. One must be detached from animal life. So yes, the body have needs. The body have needs. Eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. That's the bodily needs. So how to fulfill those bodily needs in a way that we stay within the injunction of the Veda, and in a way that we are doing that out of knowledge, like Kamasya and Indriya Priti, Labo Jivatas Yavata, Jivasya Tattva Vigyasya. Nartayascha Karmavi. Thank you for filling up my verses. I noticed I'm a devotee for 35 years, and I've noticed that there is a difference between the woman body and the man body. And you really need to be very advanced to understand that, because in this society now, it's like, what? What are you saying? No way, there is none. People are going to argue up to death, even so, like even physically it's obvious. But something I noticed about that is that when men come to Krishna consciousness, very, very soon, they can like kind of fire verses. Even the young Bhakta, often you can, not all of the men, but many times, to just learn verses and fire verses during Bhagavatam class. And what I've noticed is that women don't do that. And in my own experience, I have learned so many verses. Like I have a pile that big of little verses, and I have learned all of them. And at one point or another, I knew them all. And I see the limitation of my brain and the limitation of that subtle body that's called human, the human form of life in a woman's body. And it's okay to not fire verses. Firing verses is not a proof of anything, it's just a proof of I know verses. That's all. And so I don't know verses, or I forget them because I have this less intelligent body that have less propensities for that. Patrick Manor, maybe I have a woman body. Farmbar said, yeah, I'm not saying it's all across the board. I have seen Mother Vishaka when she gave class. She's the only one I can think about, really, over 35 years. She fired verses too. And but that's the only one I can think about. And I've seen many classes all my life. I've seen classes from so many people, and women and men alike. So okay, so we have, animal life and human life. So animal life is I love the last sentence. In fact, I'm going to post it on Facebook today. Fulfilling the demand of the body is animal life, and fulfilling the mission of spirit soul is the human mission. So it's quite clear. It's quite so succinct and precise. And so there is an animal in us. We are animals. We are animals. So that's, people say we are all animals, and there is truth. So fulfilling the demand of the body, which the body does have demand to eat and, to be fed. The body have demands to, like in that verse, Kamasya and Andrea Pretty, it said, life desire should never be directly towards sense gratification. So we need to look at our desire. Spiritual life, it's all about desire. In fact, in order to step out of the entanglement of the Vedic injunction and the tree of this world, like the only way to step out is to transform our desire. That's very simple. Spiritual life is very simple. It's transforming our desire from the desire for self-gratification, the desire for my economic development, the desire for my comfort, and don't move anything around me, and to come outside of our comfort zone, and 2 weeks, like, okay, I'm going to let go of everything and desire something that's inconceivable. That's inconceivable, and that's inconceivable to my material mind, inconceivable to my material intelligence, and changing our desire through association with the pure devotees. So Kamasya and Andrea Pretty. So we shouldn't desire sense gratification or economic development, or even religiosity, or even moksha. And it said one should only desire a healthy life. So that healthy life, that's what we are speaking about here. A healthy life according to the Vedic injunction, or self-preservation. So it's not like there is no self-preservation. There is, of course, we want to be responsible to fulfill those animalistic needs of the body, because we are embodied, because we are spiritual, having a human experience. We are embodied in a human body. Doesn't mean that the need of the body that is there in animal life is not there in a human form of life. And then it says, that verse said, since the goal of human life is to inquire about absolute truth, nothing else should be the goal of our work. So we want to look at our work, what I do daily. Okay, I do things to maintain my body. I do things for self-preservation. That's not the goal of life. And the goal of life is inquiring about the absolute truth. So how do I take care of my body? How do I take care of the demand of the body while staying focused on inquiring in the absolute truth? And then that how is given here by following the injunction of the Veda, by following those great souls like Dwarkadish, like the supreme super soul of all, by following in their footsteps, the Mahajan. I just read about Yamaraj not so long ago. Maharaj is one of the Maharajan, and he shows us the way. He shows us the way. He's in charge of death. He's in charge of punishing. And in the fifth canto, it's explained that the Yamaduta, they are scared of the devotees because they tried to arrest Ajami, and Ajami was extremely sinful, but he chanted the holy name of the Lord, even so he didn't chant to remember the Lord, but because in some ways he was offenseless, he was saved by the Vishnu Duta. And then the Yamadutas, they were really insulted and sheepish and embarrassed, and then they got a little chastised also by Maharaj. So now when they see a devotee and stay away. Well, we're scared, like we have seen what's happened last, so we don't want to touch the devotee. So anyone with a devotee, anyone who utters the holy name of the Lord without offenses. That's the definition, at least there. So we want to follow in their footsteps, to know how to take care of the body while being 100% making the goal of life, inquiry about the absolute truth. And it's like Atoto Brahma Vigyasa, that's what makes a step out of human life. He said, now that we have obtained a human form of life, let's just inquire. And that's what differentiates human life from animal life. As long as we only focus on the demand of the body, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending, and we can see most of society nowadays is only focused on that. It's animal life. And the stepping out of animal life is inquiring. And inquiring means opening ourselves to receive knowledge and opening ourselves for that place of distance, detachment. Okay, the body is there. I take care of the body and I'm not the body. That's knowledge. Bhagavad Gita, chapter 2. I'm not this body. I'm spirit soul. Nothing can crush me. Nothing can annihilate me. Nothing can burn me. Nothing can insult me. I'm a spirit soul. And that's knowledge. And with that knowledge, I acquire natural detachment. And with that knowledge, I'm taking care of the body, knowing that I am not the body. I'm going to check time. I don't know how much. Okay. So Krishna, when he was on earth, he never violated the principle of Vedic instruction because they are the guide for human life. Once, when I was a Bhaktin in Montreal, when I arrived in Montreal, the temple was empty. It was an empty temple. It was 3 brahmachari, 3 or 4, I don't remember. Krishna. It was 3 brahmachari, and then the temple president, he was a grihastha. And that's the people that were taking breakfast at the temple. It was the temple resident, let's say. It was, there's a big congregation. Prabhupada went to Montreal, so there's devotees that have been devotees for a long time. Sunday feast was very well attended, but the temple itself, that's the situation. And the temple was so poor that even in the middle of the winter, there was no heat. And in Montreal, winter is a real winter. It's not like Florida winter. It's a real winter with mountains of snow. And so we'll go with our gloves and hats and coats. I will chant Samsadava. And then after we'll dance so hard, because that was one way we could get warm. So we'll dance. Anyway, I was in Montreal, and so there was nobody there. And I have weird memory, but now that I know better about devotional service. Anyway, the temple commander, he was a brahmachari. He was having an older devotee was around for a long time to take me around the city. And I remember we were walking around the city. And what's my point? What I was speaking about before that?
Sankhya regulation.
I was trying to make a point about that.
Living a life for self-preservation, healthy life, not for sense gratification.
I said all that. I was making a point. And thank you.
Dharma, Kama,
Yeah,
Moksha.
that's good. Everybody's kind of you can bring it back.
I feel like you said moksha before you said. whatever
Yeah.
bhakti. I don't
Yeah, I was trying to remember something about those
I want
conversations.
to hear the story anyway.
Well, but now it's not connected with anything. Well, the story was really interesting because I will go to the street and this devotee will speak about Krishna. Krishna is blue, Krishna is in Vrindavan, and he will say pastime of Krishna to me. And I was listening, I was thinking, why is he telling me all those things? And I couldn't relate at all, like zero. But I guess it was purifying, you know. I guess now I know it's purifying. But at the time I didn't know and I didn't understand, and it was feeling very disconnected kind of interaction. But that wasn't my point. I was trying to think of something. Anyway, so I'm going to stop here. Bhagavanapi Vishvatma Lokaveda Padanugaha Kaman Shishevedwa Vatyam Ashakta Sankyam Astitaha. Simultaneously, the personality of Godhead enjoyed life in the city of Dwarka, strictly in conformity with the Vedic custom of society. He was situated in detachment and knowledge, as enunciated by the Sankhya system of philosophy. Hare Krishna. Any comment, question, expansion, realization, questions? And Andini commented, now I have an explanation for my frustration endeavors to learn verses by heart. Yeah, that's my observation. I never read anything in a Veda about that, but that's my observation. And women tend to enter Krishna's pastime in a different way and remember the pastime with more details too. So there is advantage and shortcomings to every vehicle. You know, we may have a Skoda, or we may have a Volkswagen or Ferrari. It's not really important what vehicle we have. What's important is how we direct that vehicle towards the destination. Hare Krishna.
When I was pregnant and coming to you, I was when I was pregnant with Jonah, with Malini. And I remember one of the things that was coming up for me was that I felt my wound of feeling unintelligent was really very much speaking loudly, because I was not remembering anything when I was pregnant with him. And I remember you saying to me that something like, well, that intelligence, that kind of intelligence needs to kind of not be as present, so that you can connect with your intuition, so that you can know how to take care of this baby that's coming. So it's kind of like, maybe perhaps there isn't room for all of, like, to be connected strongly with intuition and connected strongly with intelligence. You know, those are different kinds of intelligences, and so that just helps me a lot to understand the vehicles more.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've seen that in many women, pregnant women, that they have such a frustration that they don't feel intelligent anymore.
They don't feel that their rational mind is working as well anymore. They feel the limitation, and often they see it as a problem. And instead of seeing it like as a blessing, and seeing the blessing is like, yeah, there's an instinctive part of us that the intellect may block. And then when that instinctive part of us want to awaken, sometime to lose that part, allow for more connection. And that's how we separate ourselves from the super soul too. Because, you know, it said knowledge and detachment, and really at the core, there is inquiry about the absolute truth. So it's not like we come like, I have knowledge. It's like the same thing with the gopis. They don't think I have Krishna. They always say, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? So the mood is really not, I have knowledge of the white earth and I have knowledge. It's more like inquiry about the absolute truth. And that in itself is knowledge. Yeah. And so the knowledge of the intellect, yeah, it's still material in a sense. And then to really connect with the absolute truth, it takes that feeling of, I don't know, I want to know. And then sometimes that part of us that's blocking the rational mind, that's blocking, need to be taken away to really connect with knowledge, connect with super soul in art. Super soul is directing the wandering of all living entities. There is places where Srila Prabhupada describe instinct, you know, like animals, and babies too probably, but animals, they come out of the womb and they know how to put their nose in a fur, and then they find the nipples, and then they know how to eat. You know, animals are driven by instinct. And there is places in the Bhagavatam, I don't know, remember where, maybe you do remember where it's described that's super soul. You know, that instinct comes from the super soul, and intuition comes from the super soul. Yeah.
I know that like
To not be attached, like my intelligence need to look a certain way.
and I know like in my experience in my vehicle, and in this personality as Rebecca, I don't remember things I don't remember things very easily at all. I could read something and forget what I've read like almost immediately. And so whenever I do have a remembrance of something, or you know, then I quite often will say, thank you, Krishna, for giving me for helping me to remember that. It's easier for me to connect with humility, I guess, like in that, like, yeah, I mean, the only reason why I'm remembering anything right now is because Krishna is allowing me to remember that. And so I think it's like good for my vehicle anyway to help me have more humility. And yeah,
I appreciate that, because if you were to remember all those things that you want to remember, you may not think of Krishna.
right.
And because you have that maybe what appear to be limitation, then that limitation help you remember, like verse, you know, 15 chapter, 15 verse in Bhagavad Gita, that the Lord is source of remembrance and forgetfulness. So the forgetfulness too, oh, Krishna, you want me to be humble, and so you make me forgetful. And then, you know, because the goal of human life is not to remember everything, it's not to accumulate knowledge, it's not, you know, it's none of that. The goal of human life is to remember Krishna. Like to remember Krishna. And so like your lack of remembrance, which is Krishna too, is helping you remember Krishna. That's Krishna is a cause of all causes. We were reading that in Krishna book yesterday. is the cause of all causes. And Srila Prabhupada, yeah, has a full paragraph where he said, I know, like, strength is caused by Krishna, knowledge is caused by Krishna. So many. It was like, it's caused by Krishna, it's caused by Krishna, it's caused by Krishna. We didn't get it, like we are really like dense. George, you have a comment, question?
Hare Krishna, good morning. Yeah, I'm appreciating so much many aspects of Prabhupada's purport from this morning, and especially what I'm connecting with is the idea that by reading Prabhupada's books and following his program will make us so strong that we cannot be victimized or kind of derailed from our path, from our human mission of life. And specifically, I like the part where he describes, the way of regulated human life according to the Vedic principles, which are in turn based on the system of knowledge called Sankhya philosophy. And these are very like concrete themes or topics that I can share when someone is, questioning, or you know what I mean, when, like, for instance, my family often says, oh, you're not normal, your prayers before you eat are very long, or why not have a glass of wine, or why not eat meat and enjoy life and this and that. And it's one thing to say, well, because I have a spiritual master and I followed his recommendations, but it's nice that he gives us all the tools to be safe. And these customs are not just arbitrary customs, they're based on a certain philosophy. Like, he gives us all the tools to not only kind of strengthen our own resolve, but also for me personally to be able to communicate what I'm doing in a more educated way. Yeah, so I just wanted to share my appreciation for that.
Yeah, I appreciate your sharing in a few ways. One way is your appreciation for Srila Prabhupada, because really, even if we are the most intelligent and we spend so much time reading the Vedas, we are not going to understand Sankhya philosophy, or we are not going to understand all the injunction of the Vedas. And Srila Prabhupada dissected that for us, like through the disciplic succession. He dissected that for us, and he gave us a very, very regulated life. If we follow his program, then we are going to be protected. And I really appreciate that part of your comment, that, okay, Srila Prabhupada dissected, like we may not be expert in Sankhya philosophy, we may not be expert in presenting all the injunction of the Veda, and we don't need to, because Srila Prabhupada dissected it, brought everything to us. Okay, you get up early in the morning before the sunrise, you chant at least 16 rounds of japa, you follow those 4 regulatory principles, you sing those songs, you take baths, early in the morning, all those, here is what you eat, and how you eat it, and how you offer it, and how you cook it. And there is so much guidance, and those guidance that Srila Prabhupada gave us, they also give us the intelligence to present it to others. Like, oh, I'm not eating meat just because sometimes I hear that, like, people tell me, oh, you shouldn't eat meat, and you don't have the right to eat meat, or something like that. And it's always rubbed me the wrong way. Like when people tell me that, oh yes, like I'm a blind robotic follower of someone giving me rules. And I never liked that. I'm maybe because of the French blood, I'm kind of rebellious. And so following rule for the sake of following rule, it just doesn't work for me. It never worked. Like, I really need to know why I follow a certain rule. And Srila Prabhupada, through his books, he gave us so much of the why. What's behind not eating meat? What's behind not having unrestricted sense gratification and regulated our self gratification? And also not simply what's behind, but what's the benefit. More and more people, like even scientifically, they prove all that. lately I have videos coming to my YouTube channel about the benefit of getting up at 4:30. And I didn't look for them, it just came. And there is doctors, New Age, whatever. And the benefit of eating meat now, it's very well known. Not eating meat is so well known. And so even on a scientific level, which could be analyzed as Sankhya, they analyze the bodies, they analyze lives, they analyze all that. And to understand that I'm not simply following, oh yes, I'm doing that because I'm a Christian, or I'm doing that because I'm a Hare Krishna, and so but the Hare Krishna don't eat meat, I don't eat meat. That's kind of limited, and as you say, it's not going to satisfy the intellect of the people, intelligent people who may be open to hear why we are choosing what we are choosing and why we are choosing to follow those regulations. Yeah, I appreciate
I appreciate that very much, because I can like fully acknowledge that I am a novice, or I am very early on in at least in this lifetime. It's taken me well into my 30s to come to Prabhupada and so forth. I can acknowledge where I am. And also, if people really are interested in understanding what this different custom is, I can always direct them to Prabhupada, because like you said, he's already kind of distilled, everything. And so yeah, I really appreciate so much today's class. Thank you so much.
Thank you, George. Yeah, and when we direct people towards Srila Prabhupada, even if they read one line of Srila Prabhupada's books, even one verse, or even one word, or even touch the book, they have like we read in the Nectar of Devotion, like all the karma lifting, like birds. And also, yeah, like the analogy Prabhupada used, or Goswami, I don't know who is using that analogy first, but of like a flock of birds going up. So yes, we can direct people towards Srila Prabhupada. This afternoon, Damayanti and Garuda Prabhus are organizing Harinam Sankirtan, and that's what it is about, like really supporting people to get in contact with the pure devotee directly. The other day, Rohini introduced me to a person, and I was very touched by his story. And the part of his story that really touched me is that in 1969, that person got in contact with the Harinam party out, and now is chanting Hare Krishna. I don't know what's happened in between, but what I do know is that getting in contact with the devotee, even for a moment, even hearing one Hare Krishna mantra, passing by a Harinam Sankirtan party, is changing the lives of a conditioned soul. And Nandini, you had your hand raised and down and up again.
Yes, Hare Krishna. Thank you. I feel very enlivened by your class and by the discussion. And what stood out for me was that Maharaj Yudhishthira, he was the king of the whole world, the whole earth. And Krishna, he was like a king under Yudhishthira. So that I was contemplating on this, like what is the meaning of a king? What is the role of a king? And also many countries, like today, the kings don't have so much influence. And that is what I always thought, that today king, queen, it's no longer as important. And last week, when the Queen of England left her body, and there was her funeral, and I understood that more than half of the population of the earth watched her funeral. So more than half of the population of the whole world participated in a how do you say that in English? Like a ceremony where God was glorified. So half the world was hearing prayers and glorifications for God. And at that moment, it just, when I heard that, I understood that also today the position of a king or a queen is very powerful. It's very, very influential. Like who else gets half the Earth's population to engage in worshiping God or hearing the worship of God? And so I just felt like some dots connected for me, why Maharaj Yudhishthir and Maharaj Parikshit, why they are still important today, how they still influence our life or the consciousness of the society.
Yeah, we hear them 5,000 years later. That's quite amazing. And maybe the Queen too, people are going to speak about her for a long time. I wasn't part of that half of the earth, so I'm just learning from you now. And like Yudhishthir Maharaj was the emperor of the whole world, like Parikshit Maharaj also became the emperor of the whole world. And the role of that, and of course, Raja Rishi means they are representatives of God. So originally the system created by Krishna is that the king is a direct representative of God. So of course, it's a very important person, and the citizen look upon the king in that way. And you were looking at, nowadays, and I'm kind of disconnected from that knowledge, so I'm glad to hear about it. And you could see that Queen Elizabeth, that's her name, Elizabeth? Queen Elizabeth, she had such a long reign, and she affected the earth. She had an influence on the earth so much so that half of the population of the planet was there for her funeral, and her funeral were a glorification of God. So how she was still influencing the way that it's made, like she was still Krishna's representative to serve the population, the citizen, and that service to the citizen is to elevate them back to Godhead. So in a sense, that dichotomy of the role of a ruler was manifesting even in 2022. Quite amazing. Thank you.
It was amazing, and this really opened my eyes because my mother is English, and so I kind of grew up with Queen. The Queen was somehow part of conversations, and I had a lot of judgments about it. And today I have no interest, and I just heard from her, and then okay, and I didn't watch the funeral either, but I thought, wow, like Srimad Bhagavatam, like it opens my eyes to see that it's still happening. Like there's still, it's still happening, that the queen, the king, that role has such an important influence.
It's still happening to a very lesser degree than Maharaj, Yudhishthir Maharaj, because during their reigns, they really influence people to follow the injunction of the Veda. And still there is leftover, and that leftover is quite impressive. And now it comes from Krishna's system. And then to see like, okay, well, where are the other kings that have that influence on earth now? Thank you for sharing, Malini. Parampara Prabhu, you have your hand raised.
Hare Krishna. So I was preparing to give class on this verse last Saturday, and then we read Chaitanya Charitamrita instead. And so that was the things that stood out to me from the verse were like the Sankhya philosophy. And there's a little bit about that, like, and that's interesting. And then the part about the animal life also really struck me. And what I was considering is that, like in Krishna consciousness, we really need to transform, we really transform our whole like relationship with animals and animal life in general. And then because like outside of Krishna consciousness, or maybe it's influenced by Christianity, or maybe not, or just something, but there's like a kind of this distorted relationship with animals that it's like on one hand, animals are not the same as humans. There's a big distance and a big gap, in that animals are here for our enjoyment, and they don't have a soul, and they're not on the same level. But then on the other hand, in most of the civilization, in as far as actions and realization, people act in a way that's the same as animals. So there's like a huge gap there in between, like the philosophy that they're saying that they're living by, and then the actual way that they live their life. So there's like it's not even, that's not realized, because if it was in fact true that the animals are less than and don't have a soul, then we wouldn't want to be living the same kind of life that animals do, eating, sleeping, and vice versa. If it's like, well, yeah, we're basically animals ourselves, and so animal life is all that there is, then we wouldn't want to be killing and eating animals, because that's like killing our brothers and sisters. So it's like a big disconnect there. So Krishna consciousness really marries those two parts of our relationship with animal life, and completes it, and does it in a nice way of like that that first of all, yeah, we are like animals, because the symptoms of life are there. There are eating, sleeping, mating, defending. Those are present there. There's birth and growth and dwindling and then deteriorating. So yeah, so there's life there. So there must be a soul there. So that is, we have a very common relationship with animals. And then at the same time, there is a distinction, and there's a higher purpose for the human form of life. So it's really like Krishna consciousness. It's like we really need to transform a whole conception of animal life in a way. So I was appreciating that.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, like the human form of life, if it's not used for self-realization, it's animal life. And most people who live that animal life think of the animal very, very inferior and only present for sense gratification. So you can see the thickness of the illusion and ignorance and sentimentality, because then there is like, oh, but like there was a scroll that was hurt in my yard that Garuda Prabhu found. And so, yeah, I was with that scroll chanting Hare Krishna, and I put Prabhupada's box there. And then, but I could see like there was a worker and he wanted to give water to the scroll and maybe take it. I said, well, what's there to save? Saving the body of the scroll, and the scroll stay in that body that's so degrading for the soul, or like that. So Krishna consciousness really transform our relationship with animal life, support us to understand that we are at the core animals, and everything that pertaining to take care of the body is kind of animal life. And that's because we are taking human birth, we have a responsibility towards the animal, dominion over the animals, to protect them, take care of them, and that also we are different because we have the capacity to ask questions, and so you're making that comparison between like a mix of sentimentality and ignorance of most of the population on Earth in regard to animals, and the fact that there is a sense of superiority to the animals when life is only about animal propensities, and that dichotomy, like seeing like the devotees have their awareness that they have propensities, animal propensity, and that their relationship with animals is to see them as spirit soul, and support also their elevation towards Krishna to the degree that an animal can receive. Yeah. You have something else? You still have your hand up, Parampara.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your beautiful point about that. Yeah, it's yeah. Come to the place that there is no difference between human and animals. It's very, very difficult for the people to see. Very difficult. We go to restaurants. We have a job. We have cars. We have money in a bank. We are not animals. But it's just like sophistication of those four propensities. But for most human beings, it's very, very difficult to acknowledge or conceive without the knowledge of Sankhya, without Sankhya philosophy. Hare Krishna. Anything else? Yes, or any problem?
I just had some questions and thoughts come up about Anandini sharing about the Queen, and I'm curious about because I've had some interactions recently with the devotee who is very much on purpose, and his mission is to like inform people about and educate people about Prabhupada's the idea of Varnashram Dharma, and like and so we were talking about Satriyas and how there aren't many Satriyas now in this day and age, and now we need them, like we need Satriyas maybe more, I don't know if more than ever is the right way of saying it, but there's that actually, and I don't know if this is accurate, but that Prabhupada, even though he was, it seemed as though he was endeavoring to, I guess, support people to become Brahmins, and however, that perhaps the goal or I'm sorry for my challenged, I'm feeling challenged to really share this with you all, but that a Satriya, king, I guess maybe king or queen, or just that individual who, a landowner, someone who is I guess in charge in a way, in charge of the community, or that actually that is the most important of the full power. Yeah, is that, I'm curious about that, because it does make sense to me that the wheels are, for him, he said the wheels are coming off of society, and that we need Satriyas to help bring back order. That this is what this devotee was sharing, and it makes sense. It just makes perfect sense to me. Like it's like, yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Like, there is no more Raja Rishis. There is no saintly king anymore. There is no saintly leaders. And the leader, there is a lack of leader in society that leads people to the purpose of human life. Now, leaders, I don't think they know where, I don't even think that leaders in society have a sense of where they are leading people. And, like, I think they are confused. Like, we increase their sense gratification of the citizen, we increase their comfort with all the drugs, like that. It goes a little bit everywhere, but it doesn't even look like there is even one direction. And looks very scattered. So there is very a need for a leader in society. I never heard Srila Prabhupada say it's more important or most important, and I haven't read anything like that. And Srila Prabhupada wanted to create Brahmins
And sometimes Srila Prabhupada said, sometimes Brahmans, it's necessary for Brahman to take the position of Kshatriya. But that's where he was at, because like Kshatriya will not exist without Brahmins. For Kshatriyas, they don't rule on their own volition, or they are under the guidance of the Brahmins. So, I don't know, but it makes sense that there is a need for strong rulers in the world. In fact, that would change the world if we had rulers, because whatever great person do, the common people follow. And that's why the Bhagavad Gita, if we really study the Bhagavad Gita was specifically given to kings, to a lineage of kings, not to a lineage of Brahmins. It's given to a lineage of kings. So in a sense, the Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of the Bhagavad Gita is for a lineage of rulers. Yeah, that's how important the rulers were, because that's, like Ishvaku and Vishvasvan, like all that lineage, they are all kings. And then Krishna wanted to give it to Arjuna, because Arjuna is a Kshatriya.
Yeah, so much in Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's teachings, these the different varnas. Hare Krishna. The different varnas. There's the metaphor of the body, the social body. Like Sudras, legs, and Vaishyas, and Kshatriya's chest and arms, and Brahman's head. And then Prabhupada mostly will make the point that all parts of the body are important. We don't discriminate. All parts of the body, it's a synergistic thing. When Prabhupada would go into comparison, he would say, well, okay, the head's the most important. The head's the most important. And generally it's just like, well, everyone is equally important, just like the body. Everyone has a function. All parts have a function. And then if you get into comparison, then it's the most important. Otherwise, the body is headless in this direction.
Thank you. Without Brahman, like, it's dangerous to have real Kshatriya. Prabhupada sometimes, what's happening? Even Prabhupada sometimes, like he speak about the democracy, called democracy. But at the same time, there is places where I have read that Prabhupada say, yeah, democracy is better than a ruler that doesn't have guidance from the Brahmins. And that's that's where it goes naturally, because otherwise it could lead to so much abuse. And we see that, like country like North Korea, they have a very strong Kshatriya ruler. Very, very strong Kshatriya ruler. Everybody is like follow to the T, whatever the ruler wants. But it's not conducive for spiritual life, and there is no space for spiritual life. Here there is no ruler, it's just kind of haphazardly led, but then there is more space in the democracy for people to embrace Krishna consciousness if they choose to. So there's a comment from Rukmini. I will say it anyway, Rukmini. Commenting that for me, the faculty of memorizing verses is also a function of having a sound inner replay capacity musical people tend to have. Do you agree with that, dear Rukmini?
I didn't quite catch it.
It doesn't
I
matter.
get the joke that you made at my expense.
I made a joke, yeah. Hare Krishna. The blind are leading the blind. Yeah, the blind are leading the blind. So it's better to not have a leader than a leader that doesn't accept Srila Prabhupada as the authority. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Entourage Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Go up and